Football fans, Thursday Night Football was a disaster again. But we got to talk about Russell Wilson. Is he just done? Is he finished? Is Russell cooked? We'll talk about that. Russell Wilson, all things AFC West, and Thursday Night Football as a brand hurting right now. Also, all your Week 5 predictions right here on the Locked On NFL podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, with my friend and co-host, your boy Q. It's going to be a fun Friday episode. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On NFL, your daily NFL podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On NFL podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with my friend and co-host, Q. Your boy Q. I was say that's my fault, Q. I know that you don't like your government, but it says it right there.
All good. It's all good. Never shy away from the government name. It's just funny how you just throw it out there. I mean, look, I didn't check my my police record. I think I'm good. You know, my credit report's all right, so I think I'm okay.
He's known as your boy Q, host of the Locked On Raiders podcast. He also runs the Raider Nation Radio Network. I'm Chris Carter, host of the Locked On Steelers podcast. We bring you our Friday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast here, which you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, YouTube, anywhere podcasts are hosted. Like this video if you see it on YouTube. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as all the bonus content. There's a lot of content on the Locked On NFL podcast YouTube page, so check that out. Also, today's brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered all season long with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, now we got to talk about this Thursday Night Football game. We don't need to talk about the ins and outs of it. It sucked. The Colts won 12-9 in overtime.
You know, the one thing about the game that was really cool, though, and I was doing some ESPN national show. I was actually sitting in with Freddie Coleman on Freddie and Fitzsimmons on Thursday night watching the game. There was a guy, according to Darren Rovell, that put down a $100 bet that there would be no touchdowns scored in the game, and there wasn't. So he won $10,000 because of that blank show that was Thursday. So exactly. Round of applause. That's what I was rooting for. Seriously, I was rooting for that guy around the start of the fourth quarter. I was like, man, this is actually a possibility. This might happen. And then the Broncos got close to scoring a touchdown. I thought, oh, man, my man's going to lose his 10 stacks. But no, he ended up winning. So kudos to him. At least somebody won with that blank show that was the Thursday Night Football game.
You know, I guess he won. The Colts won, I guess. But who continues to lose right now is the Broncos. You know, I don't know how they got 2 wins, Q. Russell Wilson looks like a shell of himself. As a person who's had to cover Mitch Trubisky for 3 weeks, he looked like Mitch Trubisky. And whoever thought that you would say that? Like I never thought I would put those two guys in the same sentence. Yet here I am. You see at the end of the game, overtime, Nathaniel Hackett's going for it. It's 4th and 1. I don't know why you're not running the ball on 4th and 1 in the red zone, but it's 4th and 1. You're going to go for it. You got slants. And to Hackett's credit and to the offense, they call up the right play. KJ Hamler's wide open in the end zone. Right. He says, I could have walked in. Russell Wilson never even looks at him. Tries to throw it past Stephon Gilmore. It's knocked down. They lose the game. KJ Hamler is like slamming his helmet into the turf in Mile High. And it's just like, this is a disaster. Not only, because at least with the Steelers, you paid Mitch Trubisky $7 million. Who cares? You didn't trade any picks to get him. You just picked him up for the cheap and free agency. And the plan was always to get to Kenny Pickett eventually, which he starts this weekend. We'll talk about that in the third segment. But you are paying this man $243 million. Mr. Russell, Broncos country, let's ride Wilson. And he is playing terribly. You are locked into him for, I think, till 2028 when he's 40 years old. This is an utter disaster here, Q.
Yeah, it's not good, man. If you're Russell Wilson and the Broncos, you're waking up today wondering what in the world's going on and why they're not having more success. And look, Russell Wilson, he left Seattle because he wanted to cook. And we saw what happened week 1 against Seattle, and Nathaniel Hackett didn't let him cook, took the ball out of his hands, and everybody questioned it. Now Nathaniel Hackett left the ball in his hands, and now we're all questioning it. So I don't know what's going on with the Broncos. Got to see him up close and personal on Sunday at Allegiant Stadium against the Raiders, and they didn't look good then. I just don't know, man. You know, the conversation leading into the season was all they needed was a quarterback and a head coach, and it feels like they still need a quarterback and a head coach. It's bad. It's early in the season still. I mean, it's only 5 weeks getting started, so I mean, they have time to get things turned around. We know what Russell Wilson could be when he is on. Just question is he going to be on, man? I mean, it's just, is he, did Seattle see something before they made that move that made them feel comfortable with like, yeah, you know what? We'll be fine without him. Matter of fact, there's conversations right now. Is Seattle better off with Geno Smith, which is a narrative I never, ever, ever in life thought I'd be talking about. So, I mean, they have a lot of questions that they need answering right now in Denver at Mile High. And I don't know who's going to answer, and I don't know when they're going to get answers, but it's not looking good so far.
We'll talk more about them in the AFC West in a bit, but we got to chime in on this Thursday night football nonsense. It is just not good football. Q, and we talked about this a bit last week too, just with the concerns about Tua and everything that went into his injury. Also, shout out to Dr. Karina Maharaja, because she pointed out on this show like an hour after that game was over that like something was wrong with what was done to determine whether or not he had a concussion the first time, and this has not been handled the right way. She was questioned by some people on the internet who didn't like that, who Dolphins fans who were happy and then unhappy about it, and then turns out that guy was fired, and then it was like, well, looked like Dr. Karina is right. So just a shout out to her again for doing an awesome job. But back to the Thursday night football, even outside of the concussion standpoint, by the way, with Naheem Hines getting an obvious concussion and being woozy, that's not great for football, because that's
it looks really bad too. Looked really bad. It looked very Tua-esque, man.
It looked Tua. I mean, he couldn't stand.
Right.
And that stuff doesn't help you with the game. But again, Thursday night football, why do we need to do this? Now, I get the money why. Roger Sherman of The Ringer tweeted this out during the game. He said Amazon paid $13 billion over 11 years to have Thursday night football. That is $1.18 billion per year, and there are 15 Thursday night football games per year. So long story short, they paid about $78 million to broadcast the Colts Broncos game. That is insane, Q.
Right. Well, I mean, that just lets you know the NFL is king, and that I don't want to say dumb, but we're dumb enough to watch the games. I mean, we're going to watch them. As bad as that Thursday night football game was, I watched every second of it. I watched every second of it. That just shows you. And again, Chris, it's all about the almighty dollar. At the end of the day, it's not about anything else, right? It's not about player safety. It's not about quality of play. It's not about any of that stuff, because they consistently put something out. And spoiler alert, next week it's the Commanders against the Bears. You think that's going to be a good one? No, we're going to be sitting here talking about another blank show, but that's what it is. And it's just, I don't like it. I love the NFL. And as much as I love the NFL, I could do without Thursday night football. I'd be fine with Sunday football, Sunday night football, and Monday night football, and call it a day. Leave Thursday to college, leave Thursday to high school. I'm good with that. But we all know, as you mentioned, all the dollars that Amazon rolled out, or any other network. Let's make no mistake about it. Amazon ain't the only one that wanted Thursday night football. Mm-hmm. Any other network would roll it out if they could. Hell, I'll tell you right now, if the Locked On Podcast Network had enough money, they'd air it. I promise you that. And I'd be right there on the sidelines. Yep, here I am. Your boy Q checking in for the sideline. I don't give a damn. I'd be that guy. I don't care how bad it is. That's how good the NFL is. That's how much it's king. It just runs things. So any network out there that has enough dollars to get the games would get the games.
That's and that's the bottom line. Like you said, if David Locke wanted you and me on the sidelines, we'd be up in there. It's like, all right, this is a terrible game, but I hope you watched it because we're getting paid for it.
Exactly.
But again, it makes you wonder if the NFL just like change up your brand a little bit, man. Like, you know what? Do 2 Monday night football games a week. You can manage that. It worked that one time. I think they could manage something like that. And then that way you're not stressing out these things, because it's bad football. You're putting your players more at risk. And I know it's for the almighty dollar, but there just might be a better way for both your players to be safe, your product to look better, and for you to earn more of those almighty dollars.
Lots of injuries Thursday night. Yeah, lots of injuries. I mean, when you play Sunday and then turn around and play again on Thursday, man, you know that's got to be wear and tear on the body. I mean, and big time wear and tear. These are small car collisions that they're having each and every play. And then, oh, by the way, you got to do it a couple days later. I mean, that's just, it's a rough deal. And if they, want to stress player safety like they talk about stressing player safety, they wouldn't have Thursday night games. But here we are, and we're preaching to the choir because they're going to keep on having them.
They're going to keep on having them, and we're going to keep on covering them. It's just, again, the almighty dollar runs everything. Yep. We got to talk about this AFC West, because, the best division that ever existed in football was a narrative, and it is not looking that way. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, we got to talk to you guys about Simply Safe. Here's a sports analogy for you. When it comes to burglars, your home is like the end zone, and you need the absolute strongest defense you can muster. This is why I use and trust Simply Safe Home and Security. At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. It's cutting-edge technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back, so you always know your home is safe. What I can tell you is that when you call Simply Safe staff for help, they're attentive. They're with you. They make sure that you understand they are with you, and whatever you're asking, they're doing whatever they can to help you find it or to help you figure out whatever situation you're in. I love how simple the phone app makes it. You can go to your phone to check on your home even while you're away, and that keeps you up to date with the safety of your home at all times. It's just amazing, and it's also an easy way to get in touch with their support team. With 24/7 professional monitoring, Simply Safe's agents call you the moment a threat is detected and dispatch police or first responders in an emergency, even if you're not home and can't be reached. Simply Safe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door. HD security cameras for inside and outside your home. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/lockedonnfl. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplysafe.com/lockedonnfl to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe. Back here on the Locked On NFL podcast, the Friday edition with Chris Carter and your boy Q. Q, what's up with your division, man? AFC West is supposed to be all that, and it's all not.
No, I mean, you're right. And going into the season, everyone talked about the AFC West. It was going to be the toughest division in football. And, there could be possibly 3 teams, maybe even 4 teams make the playoffs. That was the narrative. Hell, I believed it, right? I mean, all the additions, you got the Chiefs there. The Chargers went out and made a bunch of free agency moves. Of course, the Broncos, we talked about that, went out and got Russell Wilson, Nathaniel Hackett, and all of a sudden, that's all they needed. Again, they were just a coach and a quarterback away from being greatness. And then the Raiders went out and made the big move for Devontae Adams. And I could tell you from being here in Las Vegas and covering the Raiders that, as a 1-3 team, they haven't lived up to their end of the bargain. So, sometimes when it looks great on paper, my grandmother used to say that just because it looks good and feels good don't mean it is good, right? And so we see this on paper, we see this division say, oh, yeah, they're going to be awesome. But sometimes, what you already knew kind of remains the same. And, the Chiefs are sitting there looking pretty good, 3-1. Only loss was 2. Well, the Indianapolis Colts, who just knocked off the Broncos as well. So the Colts have the AFC West number right now, and they come to Vegas in a few weeks. So we'll see how that trend continues to roll.
Watch out.
The Chargers, they get injured all the time. I don't even know if Justin Herbert really should be playing these days, right? I don't have any idea. I believe he's got a punctured lung. I mean, that can't be good. And I know that you could play with it, but J.C. Jackson, high-dollar guy, he's only been out there for about 12 seconds. He's dealing with an ankle injury. And I'll say this, and I don't want to say that I told you so or any aha moment. I asked so many times to anyone who would answer, Mike Debate, host of Locked On Pats, anybody who would answer the question, why in the hell is Bill Belichick letting J.C. Jackson go? He is a lockdown corner. He was an undrafted free agent. He's been leading the league in interceptions for the longest. Why are they letting him walk? And, Mike said, hey, I thought that, I think that Belichick sees something. It could be injury related. And I'll say this. I think Mike was spot on because, look, this guy's been injured more times than not. And when the Patriots let a guy go, you have to take a double take, right? Yep. It's almost like, and Chris, I mean, we've hung out together. So we know where we're from and what we're doing and what we're about. Mm-hmm. It's like when you're on the street and someone offers you something, you're like, wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah, hold up.
Instinct is there's something wrong here in this scenario. This can't be right. If someone's trying to give you something, it's like, oh, hey, yeah, I got this here. It's only going to cost you this. You're like,
is it?
Why?
Yeah,
I don't trust
it. There's something attached to this.
When the Patriots are willing to let a guy like that walk, you've got to do a double and triple take and say, okay, wait a minute, where's the camera at? Am I getting punked? What's going on? Why is this available? Why is this player available? The Raiders did it with Trent Brown. The Raiders went and signed Trent Brown to a massive deal, right? He was a free agent from the Patriots. They just let him walk. He was their left tackle, just won the Super Bowl with them. Why would they let the guy who protects Tom Brady walk? Well, the Raiders gave him a boatload of money, and guess what? He took that boatload of money and went right back to New England because he was trash. He wasn't available. He was terrible. I mean, it's just a simple. He blocked me on Twitter too, by the way. So,
dang, really?
Oh, yeah. Because I said what I'm telling you now. He's trash. The guy doesn't like football, love football. He loves what football could do for him. And as a massive man, what football does for him is pad his pockets and put a lot of money in his bank account. So hey, that's fine. It's different strokes for different folks. But my cautious tale is if the Patriots allow a player to leave or offer a guy in a trade, you got to take a double and triple take because there's something wrong with the scenario. So the AFC West just hasn't been all that. And, the Chiefs are the leaders and everyone else is kind of sitting around saying, hey, do you want to take second place or should I take second place? It hasn't been all that yet.
It hasn't been. I will say the Chargers with their injuries, I at least give them pause.
They have that every year, though, don't we? Why do we fall for the end of the tailpipe every single year?
What did you and I say before this all started? Because everyone was Chargers could be going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
I've heard this since 2005. When they had Drew Brees at the quarterback position, and then Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson and Antonio Gates, and every year the Chargers, this is going to be the year, and it's never the year, and it's something crazy every time. And here they are. And listen, they've added, so they have some talented names on that roster, but they are not putting it together yet again. And right now, it's looking like the Chiefs are just going to run away with the division like they have the past several years.
That's what it feels like. And, David Drogemeyer, host of the Locked On Chargers show, does a fantastic job. But, he was super hyped about the Chargers. They were going to be the AFC West division champs. Herbert's banged up. Bosa's out. J.C. Jackson's out. It looks like the Khalil Mack show going on right there. And look, that's a hell of a pickup. He's doing his part, but he can't do everything by himself, and so there's just, for some reason, I don't know why, that organization is always snake bit with either injuries or their special teams unit sucks, right? It's just that's how they end up losing games. Injuries, special teams, and we know Brandon Staley likes to roll the dice on fourth down, the whole analytic thing. I think he's scaled back a little bit on that, so I won't even hold that against him. It's just something is snake bitten about that organization, and I don't cheer for it because I think that they're a damn good team with a lot of really good players. I don't get it. I don't understand why there's always some kind of big void when it comes to the Chargers. Like, what's happening? Well, Chargers are charging it up like they always do. I don't know.
Crazy enough there.
And then the Raiders only got one win, and they got Davante Adams. Let me not excuse the Raiders for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, Q, we've been very light about your squad.
No, that I don't want. Hey, look, they only got one dub, and that was over the Broncos, and we see how bad the Broncos are. Right. So, and the Raiders went out and got Josh McDaniels. I thought that was going to be a difference maker as far as offensive play caller. It hasn't been.
What did I tell you about Josh McDaniels? That dude, anyone that talks about, Bill Belichick coaching tree, and that coaching tree is poisoned.
You might be right.
Who comes from that? That's great. Brian Flores is your one example, and the Dolphins had to got rid of him prematurely nice with the Steelers. But from Charlie Weiss to the guy Matt Patricia, all them dudes, they don't work out where they go. And if someone wants to say Mike Vrabel never coached under Bill Belichick. He played under him.
Played there. No, you're right. Look, there's a lot of question marks in the AFC West. You're absolutely spot on, and that's why I didn't want to leave the Raiders out. I just didn't want to emphasize on them as well. Just because I cover the show or cover the team, but it's just. Everyone's been underwhelming except for the Chiefs, and the Chiefs have been thriving without Tyreek Hill, which is the reason why they were going to regress, and they haven't. So, everything was going to be great because, every team in the AFC West got better and the Chiefs got worse. And at the end of the day, you look at it and everything remains the same. The Chiefs are in first and everyone else is fighting for second, third, and last. Simple as that.
That's the AFC West, not the AFC best at the moment.
Right.
I guess the best division in the AFC right now would be the East, with the Bills at 3-1 and the Dolphins at 3-1. And the Jets are 2-2.
The Jets look pretty good. They look pretty decent.
Yeah. So there's some hope there. I think everyone agrees though. If you were to look at a division right now, the best right now is the NFC East. You got the 4-0 Eagles, the 3-1 Cowboys, and somehow the Giants are 3-1. I don't know how that's
occurred. Man. Shout out to him changing the culture there. And the Cowboys have a strong defense, and the Philadelphia Eagles, I think, are the best team in the NFC in general.
I would agree with that.
They're a great team, and shout out to Jalen Hurts. I'm happy for him, man.
We'll talk about a lot of those teams in our pick six, where we go over our top 6 games that we're looking at in matchups this weekend with our full predictions. So stay tuned with that on the Locked On NFL podcast. But first, we got to talk to you guys about betonline.net. Betonline.net your number one source for all your betting stats and sports information. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NFL season. Now we're hitting week 5. Also, Major League Baseball playoffs are here, so you want to put money down on that. Also, NBA, NHL, both right around the corner. BetOnline, your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in the action when you visit BetOnline, where the game starts. Back here on the Friday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. I'm Chris Carter. He's your boy Q. It's time for the Pick 6. We pick our 6 games. We pick 6 games out of the weekend that we find interesting. We give you betting odds, lines, and our thoughts on those matchups right here.
Dumb question for you as we get started with this.
Yeah.
Do you have all the lists of the games? Because I lost.
I do. Don't worry. We're good. We're good.
Yes!
I'm being a good co-host here. I got us.
It came through for us. Good job.
Yeah, so don't worry. I'll hold it down, even though Q can't.
You're Jordan Poole. I'm Draymond. My bad.
Yeah, don't be fighting me over here. That was a crazy video.
That was
the best conspiracy theory I've heard is that a Russell Wilson fan released that video to TMZ because they wanted to take the heat off of Russ.
Jeez, I'm gonna go put myself in the corner after hearing that.
All right, but let's get into some of these matchups. Our first one's going to be the first game of Sunday, which is the game in London. The Giants play the Packers at a neutral field. The Packers are 9-point favorites, according to betonline.net. By the way, betonline.net brings you our pick 6 today. The money line at -365 for the Packers, plus 295 for the Giants. The over-under is set at 41. So that's interesting. That's a very low number.
The unders have been winning all season long.
They have.
The unders
21-20. That's all that would take for this to hit the over.
Yeah. Thursday night, look how many points was scored. 21 total.
Okay, but that was the Colts and the Broncos.
I know. It was a game played, though.
It was a game played. And the Packers haven't exactly been awesome. The Giants aren't exactly awesome. But they're both 3-1. How does the NFL function? I don't know, Q. I'm going with the Packers. I can't. It's hard for me to bet against Aaron Rodgers, even though he hasn't been great this year so far. I think he'll do enough in this game to get the dub. Though, if I'm betting, I'll take the Giants. I think it's going to be a closer contest. I'll take I'll take that. They'll be able to cover with a 9-point spread. That's a pretty large spread there. If I'm taking, I'm going to bet the over. Doggone it! 41 points. That's too low in the NFL, and it's going to be early. It's going to be London. There's going to be dumb defensive mistakes. They'll put some points up. I got that. What's your bets on this look like, Q?
Well, I'm going to roll with the Packers in this game as well. I was actually thinking about rolling with the G-Man early in the week, but then when I found out about the quarterback situation and Daniel Jones is still really banged up, Tyrod Taylor's already been ruled out. I mean, there's just so many different scenarios to kind of look at in this quarterback situation when it comes to the G-Men. Maybe Saquon Barkley ends up having to go into Wildcat scenario again. So I don't really trust that. I do like what Brian Daboll is doing with the G-Men, though. I like the culture there. So I'm rolling with the Packers in this one. If I was going to, place a bet, I might, though, take a chance on the Giants and the points just because, I think it's going to be a long shot, but almost double-digit points is a lot in the NFL for any team. So I don't think that's a bad bet at all. Let's put it like that.
Indeed. We're going to a AFC showdown, 1:00. Chargers at Browns. The Chargers are 2.5-point favorites in Cleveland, which means, of course, the Cleveland getting 3 points because they're at home. The over/under is set at 47.5. I can see this one being under because I can see both teams trying to grind it out. Austin Eckler finally got going for the Chargers last week. The Browns, of course, have Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt in that offensive line. But I'm going with the Chargers. I know that they're hurt up, but I think that they're still going to be able to find ways to win in this game. The Browns, they've looked good at times. They've not looked good at other times. They didn't look good last week against the Atlanta Falcons. I'm taking the Chargers. I think they find a way to win with the roster. And I think Austin Eckler's awakening last week would play a big part of this.
Well, Myles Garrett is back for the Browns after that scary accident that he got into, and so I think he's going to go out there with something to prove. And the Browns are at home; they have a pretty good defense, they have a very strong run game, and I don't mind Jacoby Brissett at all. I think that he's been okay. He hasn't been great, but he hasn't been bad either. He hasn't been doom and gloom like everybody thought. And the Chargers, as we mentioned in segment number 2, we talked all things AFC West. They're pretty banged up. They haven't really just lit the world on fire. So I'm going to actually roll with Cleveland on this one. I think that they straight up win the game. I think that they, cover I think they win by like 3 or 4 points. No, probably about 3 or 7. Anyway, at the most, the touchdowns, put it like that. I think that they win by at least 3, but probably topping out at a touchdown win. So I'm going to go with Cleveland in this one.
I hear you there. All right. Moving along, we have our next game coming in on the Sunday slate. We're going to go with an AFC East showdown here, because this game could sneakily be very important. The 3-1 Jets face the 3-1 Dolphins, place the 2-2 Jets in New York. The Jets coming off their win over the Steelers. The Dolphins most likely will be with Teddy Bridgewater. Yep. This is an important game in my eyes, Q, because the Dolphins have positioned themselves to have an early stake to be fighting for a 1 seed. It's just the first quarter of the season. It's not truly determining all of that, right. But you set a good pace. And if you can avoid a letdown game against a Jets team that I feel the Dolphins are better than, then you can put yourself in a position to kind of keep going. And then if you do get Tua back at some point, you can be at full strength and come out on the better end of it. I'm going with the Dolphins. I know that they're going up to New York, and it's not, they're not going to be benefiting from 120-degree weather, but this is a defense that knows how to create turnovers. They're talented in the secondary. And Teddy is like Jacoby Brissett in my mind. He's a good backup. He takes what's there. He gives you a chance. And with those receivers, I truly think that there's enough talent on that offensive side of the ball to create some plays. I also think they get after Zach Wilson a bit better than the Steelers did last week and cause some problems.
Well, I'm going to actually roll with the Jets in this one. I really am. I don't believe in Teddy Two Gloves. I never have been a believer in him, even when he was at full strength, when he was the Vikings starting quarterback. I just never thought he was that good. I always thought he was a game manager, and I think he always gives the team an opportunity to make a turnover or create a turnover or two. I believe Sauce Gardner. I believe in DBs win games. That's what my motto is.
They got Xavier Howard on the other side.
Hey, look, the Jets have Sauce Gardner going up against Tyreek Hill. So that's what I'm looking for, man. That's going to be a money matchup. Last week, I was actually blessed to be able to see Devontae Adams and Patrick Surtain go up against each other. And Patrick Surtain is one hell of a DB, man. He gave Devontae Adams all he can ask for and then some. That was a fantastic matchup. I'm expecting another great matchup this week in Sauce Gardner and Tyreek Hill. I'm going to roll with the young pup, though. I'm going to roll with Sauce. I think he comes up with a big-time interception off Teddy Two Gloves because that's what Teddy Two Gloves does. So I think that the Jets find a way to get a dub against Miami, and everybody's talking about the New York Jets on Monday.
The Dolphins 3-point favorites there with the Jets being at home. The over-under set at 46. I'll also go with the under on this one. I do think that that's a little bit high scoring for these two offenses. Moving right along, though, this game – people might look at this and say, like, well, Chris, this is going to be an obvious result. But I say this, the 1-3 Steelers go to visit the Buffalo Bills at 3-1. This is going to be Kenny Pickett's first start. Yeah. There's excitement here in Pittsburgh about that. But here's the crazy part, Q. The Bills are 14-point favorites. And it's not that that's crazy in itself because the Bills are a Super Bowl contender. The Steelers have really struggled this year. But this is the first time since the NFL merged in 1970 that the Steelers have been 14-point underdogs in any game, and they were the last team to not be 14-point underdogs going into a game. That's crazy in and of itself. And because of that, and because I know how Mike Tomlin worked, you saw how he beat the Bengals in week 1 this year. You saw how the Steelers beat the Bills in week 1 last year. I think that they find a way to get them get up for this game. I'm not saying they're going to win, but I think that they'll cover. And it might even be a 10-point situation, but 10 points still covers you when you give them 14 points. There's a lot of parity in the NFL. I know the Bills are a very good team. They're a Super Bowl favorite in my book, and I have them to win this game. But, man, I'm taking the Bills to win, but the Steelers to cover. Over-under is set at 46. I'm actually going to go the over in this one.
Okay. I think that 14 is a lot of points. I mean, I really do. Once it gets up to double digits in the NFL, I get very nervous about rolling with that, right? Because, again, it's the NFL. These guys know what they're doing. I don't care if you're the worst team in the league, you still could play somewhat, right? And so I just think that 14 points may be too much. But I'm interested to see how Kenny Pickett, the rookie, gets his first start in Buffalo. like that's less than ideal, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if
that's tough.
if they didn't have to go to him last week, bring him in to get a jump start, I think they hold him out at least one more week. But Mike Tomlin is Mike Tomlin. He knows what he's doing. He's a hell of a coach. He's earned the respect and earned the right to make that call. So that'll be a very intriguing game. I do think Buffalo wins. I just don't think that they covered that 14-point spread.
Number 2 overall defense, number 1 passing defense. You know what other quarterback came in as a rookie and started his first game against the number 1 passing defense in the country?
No.
Ben Roethlisberger. So
I
should have history for you,
baby. I should have known it had the Pittsburgh ties, of course.
We got them all day. That's what we're writing out here for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Did you know that Kenny Pickett in his first start for Pitt was against the undefeated number 2 in the country Miami Hurricanes, and he took them down? So there's a chance, man. I'm just not betting on it.
Facts. I'm not either. Buffalo wins the game, but 14 points is too much.
That's too much to cover. All right. Now, Cowboys 3-1 at Rams 2-2. Q, who are the Rams? I don't even know anymore.
Not a very good team with not a very good quarterback. Never been a Matthew Stafford guy. He earned a little bit of respect because of what he was able to do last season and lead them to the Super Bowl and come up with some big passes when they needed it. So I got to give him that. But I've never believed that Matthew Stafford was that great of a quarterback. And you see what he's doing this year, and he's banged up. I don't think he's healthy. That Rams team, they're lucky that they won the Super Bowl last year because I don't see them doing it now. All the depth that they used to have, they don't have. And all those picks that Les Snead was talking about, not having those picks is why they don't have the depth right now. Again, I'm not mad at him because he still got a Super Bowl out of it, and that's the ultimate goal. But now, at some point, the lack of depth is going to come back to haunt you, and that's what's going on right now with the Rams. So it's funny that they're favorites in this game. I heard Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy say, we ain't nobody's underdog. I don't think that they should be an underdog in this one either. I think the Cowboys get the victory, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this game and you say, like, man, like the Cowboys have played some really good football with Cooper Rush at quarterback.
Yep. But they're doing, you know what they're doing, though? They're doing what the damn Cowboys are supposed to do, right? Run the ball, play strong defense. When Dak's in there, it's like, oh, I can throw the ball 45 times. No, run the damn ball. I feel like Richard Sherman. Run the damn ball. Run the damn ball. You got 2 horses in the stable in Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott. Horses don't do nothing if they're just sitting there grazing. Let them cats get out there and run, man. Sorry.
You do sound like Richard Sherman, who was going through some PTSD when he saw Russell Wilson throwing a red zone interception and then trying to hit a slant to win the game. It's just, I feel you. But I feel you. They got the formula. Dak, you don't need to throw 40 times a game.
Oh.
You can be really efficient with 25 attempts.
Yep.
Connect on 20 of them, get 2-3 touchdowns. You're going to be a happy dude because y'all going to be winning.
Keep winning games.
Micah Parsons has that defense playing at a high level. But like you said, Cowboys 5.5-point underdogs. I'm taking that all day. They're winning. Right. And even if they don't win, they're covering that. Like that's ridiculous. The over under though set at 43. That's tough. I'm taking the under. I think that these are 2 defenses that try to grind. They're going to try. The Cowboys are trying to run the clock out, and the Rams still have a talented defense. They haven't been too well together so far, but the Cowboys defense, I don't think either team puts up too many points. So I'll take the under there.
Cowboys are going to score a defensive touchdown. I'm going to tell you right now. I don't know who it's going to be, but they're going to get a defensive touchdown. It could be Diggs. It could be Parsons. It could be any of those cats, man. I mean, for all I know, anybody could score once they get their hands on the ball. I don't even think the game's close. I really don't. I think it's like a 21-10 game. I really do. It'll still be the under. It'll still be the under, but I just think that they blow those cats out.
Last game we're doing here, and this to me has game of the week vibe because it's really important for both sides. The 2-2 Bengals go to visit the 2-2 Ravens. BetOnline has this game with the Ravens being 3.5-point favorites, which means with the home field advantage, they really see this as a coin flip in this situation. The Ravens, the over-under set at 48. I think that's a fair number. The Ravens money line is -180, Bengals +160. Man, this is tough because the Bengals were 0-2. They bounced back to go 2-2. The Ravens, they had the Buffalo Bills on the ropes, and then they let them slip through their fingers.
Right.
I still feel like the Ravens are the best team in the AFC North. I said that going into this season. I thought, even with the Bengals being AFC champs, I think that they're in for a regression year, and not for long. Kind of like I see them kind of like how the Rams were after they lost the Super Bowl. Like they needed a year to clear their heads, and then they were back in it. But this is the Ravens' year. They're healthier. Lamar Jackson's balling out of control. And I think that they'll be able to do enough to trip up Joe Burrow in this game in prime time. So I'm going with the Ravens, and I'll even take the points. I think they win by more than 3.5.
You know, I would co-sign everything you just said. I just don't trust the Ravens defense. And
they've not been good.
Either, right? John Harbaugh doesn't trust the defense either. I mean, he went for it on 4th down trying to win against Buffalo last week when he could have kicked a field goal, and he didn't because he didn't trust his defense. So I don't trust Baltimore's defense. I trust Lamar Jackson and what he's able to do offensively. He's fantastic. I love everything he's doing, and I hope he continues to shine. I want him to get the bag. I want him to get the super bag. But I just think that this one, I think Cincinnati's back on a roll now. I think they're feeling good about themselves. So I'm going to roll with the Bengals in this one. Again, don't trust the Ravens defense. And if you don't have a defense, you don't have a dub, in my opinion. So I'm rolling with Cincinnati.
I think that's fair. Again, I think the Bengals, they have talent. I just think that they're going to continue to have ups and downs this season, as they've played out. But there you have it. Our Pick 6 brought to you by betonline.net, your number one source for all your betting stats and sports information. Thanks for checking out the Friday edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. I'm Chris Carter. He's your boy Q. Q, where can they find more of what you do at?
You can find me in Las Vegas on the Strip. I'm just kidding. You can find me on Twitter at your boy Q254. Everything I do, all my work, Locked On Raiders, Locked On NFL, Locked On Bets. I put it out there, so you can always check that out. Of course, I always like being here on Fridays with Chris, holding it down, just talking a little NFL action. But yeah, man, anything you want to know about me, just check out Twitter and you can find it. What about you?
Check me out, Chris Carter, on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. I also write for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette on Pitt Athletics. We got a big game, Pitt versus Virginia Tech this weekend. Pitt trying to bounce back there. Also, I do the Locked On Steelers podcast, just like Q does, Locked On Raiders. You can find our shows on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, and YouTube. If you're watching this video on YouTube, if you're watching any of our YouTube videos, hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channels to get all of our daily Monday through Friday episodes. Your team every day, as the Locked On podcast brand promises you. We'll be back next Friday, giving you more looks into Week 6 and the big games of next week. We'll see you then.